Hey YouTubers, today we have a Kitchenaid wall oven with no display as if it has no power. We took off the side trim pieces and now we took out 4 mounting screws that were holding it into the wooden cabinet, and now we're going to pull on the lower door and we're going to kind of wiggle it out toward us. We have something underneath that can take quite a bit of weight that's the same height as the bottom of the wall oven, so that it'll support it. But to get the front off to do the control, you just have to pull it out slightly, and then you're going to take out this screw right here on this side and then the same screw on the other side. Then you can lift the control panel up and out of the oven as we just did here, and then you'll be able to remove all of the connections. Before doing that, it's good to take a picture of all of the connections just to make sure that when you put them back, you'll have a really good reference. On this model, I think they only go one possible way, so each modular connector can only go to one part of the control board, but it's still good to take some pictures just to make sure and help you on the reassembly. So now we're just going to wiggle these modular connectors off. You can use some needle nose pliers, you can use your fingers, you can pry up with a flathead screwdriver, but just take your time so you don't break anything. And again, make sure you have the power off. This is 220, so you have to turn off 2 breakers. And then we're just wiggling all these connectors off. And then once we get them off, we can go ahead and put a new board in. We'll put a link in the description below to a place you can go to get your board repaired, because usually on these older wall ovens, it's hard to find these brand new boards. So now I'm going to be getting this ribbon connector here for the display out, and I'll be removing these Phillips head screws that are holding the old controller in place. It's going to take a couple of minutes. So now we're lifting the new board onto the fascia, the plastic push button, touch button part of the controller, and we're putting in those Phillips head screws to hold the control board on. And then we'll be able to put in the ribbon cable from the touchpad into the controller, and then we can hook up all of the modular connections from the oven into the new controller, and then we'll put the controller back into position, and we should be able to add power and should work fine. We'll put that ribbon cable in. I'm going to kind of wiggle it in and get it in as low as it can go. I want to really push it down until it won't go any further. Then I'll push down on the black plastic piece on the side to help hold it in. Showing you guys the fuse that popped on this old control. So I have a multi-tester for continuity. I'm putting it on the old fuse here. This is a 0.6 volt fuse, less than a volt. And on the new board, I get continuity. I can hear it beep. I can see the meter change. But on the old board, that fuse had popped. It might have got a power spike where a bunch of power suddenly came in from utility department and just fried that fuse. What you could do also is you could cut out the old fuse and you could solder in a new one, and you may not even have to get a new board or get a rebuilt board, because a lot of times that's all they do at the rebuild place. They'll test it, but they'll just put a new fuse in. I'm just putting all the little cables back on. There's a tiny one here we put on first. Then we're going to put all these back into position, kind of wiggle them in there. And you just want to sort them all out, get them all ready, and you can wiggle them into position. When you put these back in, just make sure that you're taking your time. You don't want to crush any of the pins. Make sure it's all lined up good, but do wiggle them all the way down as far as they can go, so it's a nice, strong, tight connection. By the way, I do have the upper panel here removed too. Usually there's going to be a panel that would be obstructing your view a little bit, but I removed it so that you guys could see a little bit easier. There'd be a metal panel above where my right hand is right now. So when you don't have a display like we did in this case, you always want to check the breakers first. There's 2 breakers dedicated to your wall oven. Make sure that you turn them all the way off and then all the way back on, and then test again to see if you have a display. If you still don't have a display, it's probably what happened like with this board, is that little 0.6 volt fuse has popped, maybe from a power spike, and you have to either repair that or get a new board. So we got the board back in position, and everything's working. We got display, we got power, and just the cost of getting the board rebuilt, which is usually about $150. And we tested the microwave, it's nice and hot. We're just gonna push the oven all the way back in, and then we're gonna put the trim pieces back on. There's a bottom trim piece I'm just putting in position first. There's a couple of screws that hold it in, Phillips head screws. I'll put in this trim piece here on the side. It slides up in at the top. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm putting the mounting screws in first. There's 4 mounting screws that hold the oven into the cabinet. Get those nice and tight. Here we go. Get those 4. Oh, one more here at the bottom. Get all 4. And I'm going to put in a little screw here that holds in the bottom trim piece. This is a plastic trim piece. Do that on each side. Here comes the long trim piece. Kind of hides the side rail. It goes up into the plastic at the top. Then you push it in at the bottom. You open the oven door and you put in the screw from the side. Then you repeat that on the other side too. All right, now we're going to turn the breakers back on. 2 breakers, and we'll take a look. Yeah, power looks good. It says PF, you press cancel, and then you get your display back, and then you can set the time too. You just press the time button here, and then use your keypad to put in the hour and the minutes, and then press the keypad there again where it says time, and then you're all set. You can bake, in this case you can microwave too.